It's the craziest day ever in the world of Magic the Gathering, as Wall Street has come out of nowhere and slammed Magic the Gathering, Wizards of the Coast, and Hasbro all at once, downgrading them and sending Hasbro shareholders scurrying to the hills. It's absolute pandemonium.
Magic. I am a wizard! History. I'm an old wizard! The magic historian. My bones hurt.
Greetings, owners of fine luxury cardboard rectangles, my friends. I hope the day finds you well because we have gathered for an absolutely nutty installment of Mega Magic News / Wall Street Comes for Wizards of the Coast edition. This is something I never could have predicted. Bank of America put out a scathing indictment of what's going on with Wizards of the Coast, and this was a valuation of Hasbro. Hasbro itself is dependent on Wizards of the Coast and mostly dependent on Magic the Gathering. So this entire breakdown is pretty much about how Magic the Gathering is being horribly mismanaged. And it was an eye-opening experience to watch Wall Street walk in and start to rattle off so many things that I have discussed in a number of my videos. But hearing it from like a financial institution in the mainstream is absolutely wild. And the perspective that it brings is very interesting and ultimately very bad for Hasbro, and it shows just how bad things have gotten for Magic the Gathering. So I have a whole bunch of notes that we're going to go through of the position of the Bank of America. Now, before we dive into it, I want you to understand that they are criticizing Hasbro, they are criticizing Magic the Gathering, all of that, but the perspective they're coming from is that of like the financial aspect. So they are interested in Hasbro and Magic the Gathering in terms of what it can reap shareholders. So bear in mind that a lot of these points we're going to be in agreement with, but there are certain aspects that I don't agree with them on because it's not about the player's best interests. At the end of the day, when we're talking about this level of things, Hasbro's customers are the shareholders. They have to keep the shareholders happy and get money for their shareholders, or else the shareholders take their money and leave. We as customers of Magic the Gathering are not Hasbro's customers in this sense. We are the tool they use to get the money to give to the shareholders. So they have to keep the shareholders happy. So this assessment is based on that view, and it talks about crazy terms like EBITTA. We're not really going to get into the nutty acronyms and stuff like that. I'm going to keep it as simple as possible. So the initial breakdown from the Bank of America goes like this. They say, okay, we're looking at Hasbro and we see that Magic the Gathering specifically accounts for 15% of Hasbro's revenue. Now think about this. Wizards of the Coast is just one division of Hasbro. Hasbro is a company that has like a bunch of different properties. Transformers, G.I. Joe, like there's a bunch that I don't even know about. I think like Peppa Pig, and they have all kinds of different tentacles out there with all kinds of different products for kids and stuff. So you have a situation where 15% of the revenue is coming from one product, right? That's it. One product in one particular line. That's a big problem to begin with. But then you've got 35% of their earnings before you take away taxes and other things like that. So basically, 35%, as far as I understand it, of all the money that Hasbro expects to pull in is based on Magic the Gathering. Think about that. That's like 1/3. One out of every $3 that Hasbro expects to make this year is coming from Magic the Gathering. What does that say about all their product lines and what's going on overall in different aspects of the company? So, the Bank of America goes on to say that they've talked to players, collectors, distributors, LGSs, basically the same group of people that I talk to when I'm working on my videos, although ultimately the distributor part is one where I don't really have any distributor contacts. I kind of have to get my information secondhand from other parts of the chain. So it would be nice to have some direct distributor contacts, but that's an aside. Anyhow, the phrase that is used by Bank of America is killing the golden goose. This is something that we've discussed a number of times, right? Wizards of the Coast is basically trying to extract way too much value from Magic way too quickly, because from the corporate perspective, you have to deliver those earning reports every 3 months. So when you're going to the shareholders, it's every 3 months going, here's how much money we've made, here's how much money we didn't make, here's what's going to go on. And then the shareholders go, are we sticking around? Are we leaving? Right? So the money needs to keep coming in. Otherwise, it looks bad on you. And the people who are working at Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, these corporate positions, they're not all there for the long term. They don't care about the long-term health of the game. They care about the long-term health of their resume. And the long-term health of their resume depends on the short-term profits right now over the long-term health of the game. When your personal financial security depends on hosing other people, you will make decisions that are not in their interest, right? And so that's what's going on right now with Wizards of the Coast. I mean, that's not the language of Bank of America. Obviously, I'm laying in my own opinions as well, right? So they are saying that overprinting destroys long-term value of Magic the Gathering. Now, this is a point where it depends on the perspective of how you're looking at it. If you make 1 million copies of cards, then they're saying, then they're all going to be sitting at zero. It's not going to be worth anything. And there's an argument to be made that if you have an absolute zero in your secondary market, that's really bad. People don't want to play card games that don't have a secondary market value. But part of the argument in this position kind of seems to be like if you print fewer of the cards overall, my feeling is you need to print enough cards to meet the demand at the time the set is out and not overshoot that demand. You don't want so much that it's sitting in the warehouses like the iconic Masters and Masters 25 did, but you don't want so little that you get a Jumpstart effect, where Jumpstart was meant to be a beginner product to get people into the game, but purely based on the fact that it was a super short printed product because the pandemic went slap, you can't make this right now, so there's very few boxes of it. It caused this like massive spike in secondary price values. And that's another area that I'm going to kind of disagree with how the Bank of America is putting it in terms of how the secondary market should be handled. But ultimately you have a situation where you want to have a secondary market that's healthy and robust. And having cards that go up in value over time is a good thing, right? It adds prestige to the game. People's collections feel nice. There's nothing wrong with your cards going up in value because you can trade them in for other cards, right? But the thing is, that needs to be an organic process, and that's how it used to work. Wizards of the Coast would make standard, they would make the stuff for us, we would play the game, and we would decide as a gigantic player base what mattered over time. A very standard version of supply and demand without any sort of additional factors other than the inherent artificial scarcity that's built into Magic the Gathering. Obviously, when you're not dealing with a living card game, you don't have endless amounts of cards where you can just go, you get 1 of everything, you get 4 of everything. You have a particular amount that you want to have out there where you meet everybody's needs. You don't make them infinitely available. You want to have people chasing to a degree. I get there's always going to be that gotcha aspect to Magic. So you're going to have to decide if you like that part of it. But regardless, you get to the point where you have a scenario where all these cards are out there, the prices are tanking, or you pull it back with Jumpstart and have these crazy high values, but that's not based on reality. That's not the real organic growth. That's artificial because of a knee-jerk shortage of supply. And as soon as the Jumpstart stuff really reasserted itself, now you can find the boxes. It's all over the place, and the prices have come down. So that kind of artificial scarcity is not good for the game. So in terms of the next step, it says overproducing. So it's favoring short-term gains over long-term loss. Essentially, this is the endless barrage of secret layers. This is all the ancillary products that we're seeing on top of it. Wizards of the Coast going secret layer, secret layer, secret layer. A Jumpstart with every set. Commander decks with every set. So it's an endless amount of products, and that contributes to the next point on the list, which is wallet fatigue. And my mind gets fatigued sometimes just thinking in circles about this. Anyhow, you have the secondary market prices, which over the past few years have skyrocketed to absurd proportions. That's what happened. The reserved list itself, according to the Bank of America here, has gone more than 3 times its initial value in that last little period of time. So you have this massive spike of reserved lists, and that did bear itself out. I remember people are picking up everything, Wall of Kelps, Conch Horn, stuff from Fallen Empires. Like when it comes to reserved lists, people would treat it as if it was an absolute guarantee and that Wizards of the Coast would never reprint anything from it. They would dance around it, but never reprint from it. So you did see that pushing upwards. But over the last period of time, we've seen more frequent releases, more product in each set, and wider distribution. So they're saying Wizards is not only putting out products more frequently, but they're including in each of those sets, they're putting more cards in them. And on top of that, they're widening the model out to include Amazon, Target, Walmart. So it's scattershot. So there is so much stuff out there that consumers can't keep up. And part of what happens is it makes Magic feel less special. There was a point where you could reasonably collect everything, get in on everything. I remember I would giddily get every Magic product that came out. I'd be like, I can get a box of it, I can get one of it, but it's reached the point where that's impossible. The secret layers will come out. It's like a new thing every day. I'm somebody who literally all I do is keep up on what's going on with Magic, and I can't keep up with the barrage of new products. There are secret layers now that I'm not aware of their existence because they've just put so many out there that I feel like I know them all, but if I was shown a list, I'd be like, what's that one? What's that one? That's the reality we're living in. Wizards of the Coast has moved into bafflement territory, and they've also set up this scenario where the collector boosters are essentially trying to yield the results of every other booster type. So you have everybody trying to eat each other's lunch, where set boosters are trying to eat draft's lunch, and you've got collector boosters that are trying to eat set boosters and draft boosters' lunch. It's just this big old mess. So the players can't keep up. The increased supply tanked the secondary market. And so as a result, you have the secondary market tanking that's happening right now. You have less orders going forward. That's what they're predicting. And it says 7 of the last 8 major Magic releases have declined in value. Now that is not, the initial value of when a set comes out, saying it's not worth what it was when it originally came out, it's like, yeah, that's going to happen, right? Like, the sets when they come out, some of the value is the fact that people are hyped to play with it, and playing with Magic cards are a time-sensitive thing, depending on the format you're playing in. Not as much without Standard being around, but the amount of time you get to play with it does factor into this as well. So automatically having a set go down in value isn't a bad thing. Making it more accessible and affordable for people is good. Like, one of the side effects of collector boosters is that it made rares of regular versions and things like that far more accessible. You get them far more easily, but it also cut the market value out of like everything and said all the money's in collector boosters, and it's only in the special foils, and it's only in extended, and even if you get special extended border hoopity joop whatever's in regular boosters, they don't really matter financially. So Wizards of the Coast succeeded in hoovering a bunch of the money over into collector boosters, but it's caused some real problems. And then with the big retailers and the widening, there's also a pullback on the other side of it, where you might remember, and this was partially Pokemon's fault, where Walmart said, okay, we're not going to be carrying this stuff on our shelves anymore. People are fighting over it. People are tearing it open. It's crazy. It's insane. So on one hand, they have a bunch of stores that are pulling back. And then the other point that's made is when you go into the retailers that do carry this stuff, the stores are carrying old garbage that nobody wants. And I can attest to this being the situation for me as well. I remember going to the local Walmart going, let's go pick up some theme boosters, or let's go see what they have down there. And all they had, and this was well after they were out for however long, they had old Innistrad packs, they had theme boosters, that's all they had, theme boosters, almost all blue, because nobody wanted the blue theme boosters. Surprise, surprise, nobody wants the most unfun theme. That's all it was. I dug around until I finally found a vampire theme booster, and I bought it dejectedly because it was the best thing I could find. So these places have out-of-date, overpriced gear, and that is definitely what I see. And then the next point they bring up is a massive one, and that is the wave of liquidations, the panic selling. The sellouts are endless and very real. You guys don't know what it's like to see just the little anecdotal stories that are coming in for me. It's crazy. People saying, yo, I run an LGS, and guess what? Somebody came in with beta dual lands that they wanted to sell. And it's like, beta dual lands? It's like, yup, they wanted to sell them. But I said, I can't afford to buy them right now. And the guy was like, no problem, I'll take store credit. Now, we're not talking like counterfeit beta. We're talking genuine beta. And they're just like, I will just take store credit. That is how shaken people are. Like, their faith is gone in Magic. A ton of people. Somebody else just said today that they work beside their LGS, and their LGS has a lineup that makes it look like a bank run going through it, which is that sounds crazy to me. I can't even fathom, right? Because I'm not from a bigger city, but I imagine the rush there must have. It's this endless sort of situation. So Why are these liquidations happening? What is contributing to that? Well, everybody knows. If you ask anybody who's been paying attention to Magic, it all boils down to, and how embarrassing is this? The 30th anniversary. The 30th anniversary product. The article talks about, not the article, it's like a full-on financial report that invests, like it's for investors telling them they're downgrading Hasbro financially, like straight up. It's way more than an article, so I don't want to downplay it. So this report basically talks about how the 30th anniversary, Wizards wants $250 a pack when they normally charge $5 a pack. And you just see that and you're like, yeah, okay, that's pretty wild. And then, this is my favorite part of the whole thing. It says, these packs include reserved list cards that Wizards promised never to reprint. Now, I love seeing it stated that way because Wizards can play their silly little semantic game that works on people who are really into Magic, where they go, we said we'd never reprint the reserved list, but we didn't. We made the collector's edition. These aren't Magic cards. They have the collector's back, and so they're just commemorative items. They don't count as official Magic cards, and our reserve list promise was just not to reprint official reserve list Magic cards. And so they're just patting themselves on the back like, we found a workaround. But to everybody else on the outside who's not like super drank the Kool-Aid deep into Magic, they just go, so let me get this straight. You made a promise that you were going to stop smacking kids. And it's like, I did. And it's like, why are you walking around smacking kids? Oh no, you're confused. See, these are commemorative slaps that I'm giving the children. These aren't official smacks. These are just commemorative slaps, friend. So you see and people on the outside are just going, you're literally saying, no, commemorative 30th anniversary slaps, okay? All right, that's all it is. That makes sense, right? So anybody who's like not deep into Magic goes, okay, it's nonsense, it's garbage. What's going on? This is crazy. So this is what Wizards is leaning on? They're literally leaning on this product, and their profits are going down 35%. One out of every $3 has to come from us, the Magic players, and they're going, buy $250 boosters. By the way, you have to buy them in packs of 4 for $1,000. They're not reserve list cards, but they are reserve list cards. It's the like, I want to have my cake and eat it too. I want the value of the reserve list. I want the reserve list to be untouchable, part of the prestige of Magic, and also I want to gut it. But Wizards has gutted the reserve list, and their tactical maneuver of saying, it's just commemorative slaps, didn't work. So people are slapping their cards down on the table, and for saying 30th anniversary, I'm out. The 30th anniversary is supposed to be a milestone, not a tombstone. But Wizards of the Coast has just hammered things so badly that the Bank of America is literally coming out. Now they're talking about panic selling because the scarcity value of Magic is in question. Now I want to talk about this because this is a big point that I differ on. The scarcity value of Magic is not something that needs to be maintained on the level that these guys are trying to pretend it does. Like, it's like people only play Magic because they believe it's scarce and whatever. It's the 30th anniversary isn't just causing a stampede because Wizards of the Coast is going back on the reserve list promise and getting super greedy. It's also causing a stampede because it's an emblem of everything that Wizards stands for now. Disdain for the player base. The fact that they see us as cash cows to milk for the shareholders. Like, it literally is exactly what Magic is from the corporate level. It's the 30th corporate level anniversary to the point where even the promos that were sent out as celebration items, the loyal retainers, they made sure to not send very many of those out to keep this scarcity. But that whole keeping things scarce argument says that the secret layers are fine because secret layers are timed scarcity where you can only get these boxes for a little bit of time. But secret layers aren't fine because how Magic worked up until secret layers came along was Wizards would dip a bit into the reprint pool. They would give us reprints here or there. They would put them into the sets and they would fit in naturally. They wouldn't affect the cost of the product. Wizards never looked at the secondary market and went, we're going to use this to dictate the price of the product. And then they changed to the point where they go, we're going to solely use this to dictate the price of the product. They made a secret layer for Bitter Blossom. It has 1 card in it. There are 4 tokens that you can try and argue are 4 more pieces of cardboard. It has 1 Magic card in it. And they priced it at almost exactly what the secondary market value was. Wizards of the Coast wants to mine the secondary market value, and at the same time, they want to artificially grow the secondary market value Like, you can't do that. You can't have cards that you can't go, okay, we're just going to make Ragavan. Here you go. You need it for Modern. You have to have it. And then we're going to do another set and you have to get this. And these are $60, $80, $100. And then you want the foil, $200. Before, it's like Magic's a forest. And before, Wizards of the Coast would plant saplings. They would do standard, right? Standard was the thing, and everything would grow from it. All the seeds fell from standard and grew into different trees like Commander and everything else. But Wizards of the Coast doesn't want to plant saplings because it takes time and it takes work. So instead what they do is they start making artificial trees and they pretend they're the same thing. Artificial tree. Artificial tree. Our forest is big. We have many trees, but they're gasping for breath because artificial trees, they don't make oxygen, right? So they've taken this natural, sustainable, go on forever, and they're creating artifice. Because that's what those $1,000 packs are. That's them creating a fake plastic tree and going, boom, this fake plastic tree is equivalent to this tree that has taken decades to grow. In fact, this is in some ways even better, and you should pay a bunch for it. And they've been doing this to different degrees, to the point where the forest has a lot of plastic in it. And from a distance, it looks impressive. But when you get inside it, you can't breathe. Magic is choking to death. And it's happening so obviously that mainstream financial Wall Street can see it from outer space, right? Like, it's absolutely wild. Magic doesn't need scarcity like secret layers. It needs organic stewardship that leads to organic supply and demand and growth. You can have a certain level of people getting in there and tweaking and going, I'm going to buy a couple boxes and sit on them, because that's based on the whole, hey, people are going to play with these down the line. But a lot of it is, who's going to buy this down the line? Who's going to play this down the line? Who's opening it now? So, like, Wizards is just going in every angle they can. And the 30th anniversary is the straw that snapped the camel's back. And a bunch of Magic players have bailed, and they're not coming back. And we're moving into darker times, friends, because Wizards doesn't go, oh, we've made a mistake, let's pull back. It goes, oh no, the money's not coming in. The money has to come in. The money has to come in. It gets more desperate. It gets more crazy. It gets more greedy from here. So buckle up, because it's just going to get more wild. That's it. If you're having a hard time mentally with what's happening with Magic, take a break. Go do something else. Enjoy yourself elsewhere. You can totally do that. It's allowed. I'm going to be at the Genesis Championship this weekend. I was talking about Genesis, and we were ranting about Magic in a bacon stream earlier today. So if you'd like to hear more about all this craziness, then go check out the bacon stream. And if not, then go and enjoy something else that will make you feel good. Because honestly, what's going on with Magic isn't your fault. You're allowed to ignore it and enjoy the game. You're allowed to ignore the game, whatever else. It's just a hobby, friends. So, thanks for coming by. Big shout out to all my patrons. And I will see all of you, my friend, in the next video. My friend, you're all one gigantic amorphous blob like Akira. Oh no, you've become the flesh singularity like Philorexia. All right, Philorexia? I'm done. My brain is cooked. All right, I'm doing a 5,000 subscribers celebration on my other YouTube channel, Hatcher, tonight. You can come on by if you like to dance like an Egyptian. We'll see if there's anything left in my brain by now. Nope, by then, it's all over. I don't know if the lights are cooking it. I don't know if Wizards did it, or this is just what happens when you get old, because I'm getting on in years. Anyhow, see you later!